So you founded Qt, you sold it to Aon, you were part of that journey, I assume, earn out model or whatnot, and then you had this aspiration to start again. So how did you go about that? What was sort of the step-by-step? How did you build it? How did you construct the test? How did you build that type of company?
It actually has to go back to the kitchen table at Espen's house, you know. That's where the idea came.
Or even the garage.
Yeah, that's even better. We can actually say that we're a startup founded in a garage while
The
doing
cliche is real.
while doing heavy deadlifts and squats, and it's not a joke.
Humble brag with a
No,
workout
it's
as well.
actually not. Maybe not that heavy, but it was actually Espen invested in a so-called rack, I think it's called, where you can do squats and deadlifts.
I have a gym in the garage.
So he has a gym in the garage.
Okay.
And that's where we talked about this, you know, and brought the idea slowly to life. But of course, it was based upon us seeing for many years some unsolved problems that we wanted to tackle more head on. Also challenge some of those set ways in our industry, basically. And of course, some things have maybe pivoted somewhat from what we focused on if you go back to 2022. But the idea and the reasoning behind Fairsight still very much is the same as what we thought about some years ago.
Okay, I want to go a bit maybe behind the scenes in Fairsight. So you've been operating for 2-ish years.
So I would say we've been out of stealth mode. We had like this launch event in March 2023 or something. And that's probably when we started, basically.
Yeah, that's fair to say.
Before that, you know, it was all about building.
And it still is to a certain extent.
Of course, but you know, it was deep diving into all sorts of nerdy things before that, you know.
And how's that going? How's sort of life behind the scenes here? How's the startup hustle?
It's very, very, very busy. It's massively busy. I'm not sure if I should say this on a podcast though, but I was planning to spend this week on doing different sorts of admin that has been, you know, been piling up over the years. So it's been massive. The reception from clients have been very, very good. We've killed some of the, what you call it, child diseases that we had in the beginning. And some products have taken us longer time to build than what we really hoped for. But we've seen that over the last couple of months that it's like this, I think you used the Norwegian word prop, Lasse. What was that in English? So basically, we started off in approaching the SMB market and recruitment companies. And now we're more speaking to enterprises globally. And it's slightly different in terms of demands. It looks like I would say that over the last few months, actually, we've seen the results coming out of it.
And I think, you know, I want to actually talk about something that it's behind the scenes, but it's also an example of something we talked about when we started Fairsight, before it actually started. And I want Espen to tell this story because he was the originator of it. So Espen had an idea in the garage about a feature that we needed to develop. And it's a feature that nobody else has. And we also get quite a lot of interest from that now. Latest one being NRK, which is the Norwegian broadcaster, which is a fairly new client of ours.
Congrats. It's a big logo.
Thank you. And they made emphasis around this feature. So maybe you can tell a little bit about it.
So what we observed in hiring was that there were biases basically all through the hiring funnel. So from screening to job interviews, ability tests, personality inventories, but also the end, the final decision made together with the line manager. So we could observe that there were biases all over, and I think everyone knows this. That there are biases. It could be age bias, gender bias, stereotypes, etc., etc. So what could we do about this? So one thing was, of course, to try to improve the assessments themselves. So how can we, help people on the autism spectrum do an ability test, what would the challenges be of a person with dyslexia, etc., etc. So we tried to work specifically on the test, but then we decided also to build the platform around the feature which we call the equalizer. So we're very happy with the name of the product.
Sounds like a blockbuster movie.
It does, doesn't it? Yes. By the way, I came up with a new product name last night on my way from the mountains. I'll tell you about this later.
Oh yeah, that's
It's
a
not
teaser.
it's not from a movie, but it's from a track.
Okay.
I'll come back to that.
Yes, thank you.
But the equalizer is basically identifying biases through the funnel. So it's like giving HR a heads up about where in your recruitment process you have a challenge. You know, where are the minority group having a challenge? So it's not giving like when we played around with the ideas and such, we're thinking, you know, how should we notify HR? Should we sort of, you know, give them red flags, and how should we make use of the technology and all that? And now we've designed let's call it a diversity dashboard, where you can see the changes of the demographic variables all through the process. So not just like looking at the beginning of the process and the end of the process, but basically tracking every single step of the process so that HR is notified. And the cool thing about it is that you, as hiring manager or HR, you're actually able to act before it's too late. So going back to when Lasse mentioned cutoff scores and all that through the process, you know, you can basically model things in your system as you go on. And this feature is hugely important for bigger companies where you have big volumes. So let's say that you're hiring graduates, or if you work in retail, and if diversity is on the agenda, this feature is super nice. And coming back to NRK, whom Lasse mentioned, that was also crucial for their actual decision, because there is no one else having this feature.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's a real-time bias tracker.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're proud of that one.
Yeah.
It's a differentiator in many of the discussions we're having with people out there. Yeah.
How do you see the buyers in, I don't know, Norway or the Nordics versus international buyers? Do they care about the same things, or is it different?
There are big differences.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just be a bit politically incorrect here.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. Okay, so the equalizer. It's helping companies having more fair and neutral and objective hiring processes. Now that is high on the agenda in certain parts of the world, not others. And there is no secret that would be more on the agenda in Europe and potentially also the US, whereas in some countries it's not that important. So clients basically are not too concerned about those issues. And there are huge differences from country to country. One thing is, for instance, feedback in terms of personality inventories. So here in Norway, for instance, it's quite normal that people sit down with a candidate and provide them with an oral feedback, whereas you can just move to Sweden, where you would see that it's more automated. So for us, it's important to develop solutions that goes for both practices, so to speak. Other topics, I would say that ability tests are perhaps slightly less used in Norway than our neighboring countries.
Yeah.
So if you move to Sweden or Finland, this is much more accepted socially, whereas it's slightly less in Norway. The Nordic countries as such, in terms of advanced hiring practice, I would say somewhere in the middle or towards the top maybe?
Yeah, I would say that Nordics, especially Norway and Sweden at least, and to a certain degree Finland as well, are quite mature when it comes to using psychometric assessments at least. And that differs quite a lot from country to country. In some countries, you know, the quality aspect, which we are all about, you know, high quality assessments and these kinds of things, is not that important in some countries where they more favor innovation, bells and whistles, you know, and these kinds of things. So when we built something, we thought it was important for us to keep the quality, but also add some more bells and whistles, so to speak, you know, make it more easy to use, more fresh looking, you know. We spent, some would say, too much time obsessing with our brand, you know, early on. But I think, you know, it was important for us to actually come across as something different than the other players out there. Yeah, so I think, you know, you need to cater to both innovation, but also, of course, keeping a high focus on quality at the core of it, because that's important. Because if you don't have quality, you don't have accuracy, and you end up hiring wrong people, basically, you know. So the results of not using quality assessments are quite negative, you know.
Let's wrap up with a question on the future of assessment and the future of Fairsight, maybe. So let's look, I don't know, 3 years ahead. Where is assessment as an industry, or personality and ability assessment? What's new? What's cooking in 3 years' time?
Oh, it's a challenging one.
Yeah.
I think that with regards to content, you know, the research on ability, personality, etc., I think that will be more or less as is, and everything would be related to technology, AI. We've touched upon AI, candidate experience, diversity, lack of candidates in certain parts of the world. How to challenge that. I mean, we've been discussing, you know, how to make hiring more effective, or how to make quality ensure your hiring decisions. But of course, if there is a lack of candidates, that's that also needs to be taken care of. So, not potentially taken care of, but you know, sorted one way or another. I mean, there is not everything that assessment providers can can solve for clients, but I think that there are the demographics, you know, the lack of young candidates, etc., within certain industries is a challenge. And then, you know, how can the assessment processes also make sure that you both make the candidates happy, but that you're also making sure that you're picking the right candidates. I think that will be more and more important.
I think that that's the most important aspects, at least, you know, and who knows what the future will bring, you know, if you're going to look at technology and AI, and, you know, at least one of our focus areas is how we can treat people in a good way as well. And also try to challenge people in terms of who do they need to look for and hire. Kind of like opening up the perspective in terms of matching people with different backgrounds, because you have insights into their capabilities and potential for success in a role. I think that needs to be a part of the solution, because as Espen touched upon, there hasn't been born enough people to fill some of the roles. So I think we need to look more away from formal backgrounds, etc., you know, train and develop people that has the right potential. So I think we will see some shift towards more, some people call it skills-based hiring. I don't like that word, basically, because skills are becoming obsolete at a very rapid pace. So I'm more about, you know, the good old term around potential. And I think people actually now need to focus on hiring for potential and train for skills, which is kind of like an old saying, but it applies even more now in the age of technology and AI. Yeah. So I think that's something we will see a change in, hopefully.
Lifelong learning.
Yeah. You know, it's very important. Some people can be I think, you know, in some roles, maybe the best fit is a 65-year-old bus driver with the right potential to actually learn some technology role. I think that's something that we will see more of in the future.
Espen, Lasse, thank you so much for joining the ramp. Before we wrap up, you didn't comment on Fairsight in 3 years. So where's the company in 3 years?
World domination.
Well, over the last 5 months, we've opened 3 offices outside of Norway. So we'll definitely see a speed in terms of expansion. I think related to what we just said in terms of, or what you just said, Tor, in terms of lifelong learning, you will see some developments. So we've so far focused a lot on hiring and what we call pre-hire, and we'll see a lot of development in the post-hire space. So after the hiring decision is made, related to onboarding, team development, leadership development, etc. We've been working 2 years now on a specific tool on that, which will be launched in March. And we have already clients signing up for training on that. So
Fantastic.
it will be massively changed with regards to leadership development. And we're looking forward to that. And also setting the bar high for ourselves in terms of, where we want to be.
Yeah.
So that's something. Of course, the team will grow. The core product portfolio is already in place. We need to ramp up sales, have more salespeople around. Today, Lasse and myself is running a bit around. We're quite a small team, so we have to build a company, basically.
And that's always cool, It's energizing, it's funny, and I'm one of those that actually like to be on the road, so it's a good indicator if we're traveling.
It is.
Maybe not at home, but I actually mean it when I say world domination.
Yeah.
There's no use in trying to build something if you don't look at the world as your playground, So,
So geographical expansion, product expansion, a lot of interesting stuff coming up.
There is a
Fairsight.
lot of interesting things coming up. Yes.
All right. Thank you so much again.
Thanks for the invitation. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Men hvis du ikke har lest den, Tor, det helt fantastisk. Hayas jo en av mine favoritter, fordi han skriver